In a post-COVID world, low-cost options are everything. In the comments section of some of our recent lower-cost phone reviews, we've had a few people chime in with how they purchased a mid-range phone over a flagship because it actually did everything they needed it to, despite the fact they were actually upgrading from a previous gen flagship. But what happens when someone puts out a $350 entry-level, for the US market at least, phone with some features which outpunch its price point? You take a long, hard look at it. It's the Pixel 4a, and I'm gonna walk you through why this might be your next upgrade. Hey, if any of this has helped you, if any of these videos have helped you, please hit us with that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, and click that bell to get notifications when we upload the latest content. So, what are you specifically looking for in a phone right now? I've been asked about phones which can multitask and handle a new work from home paradigm, meaning that person needed a phone which could do just about anything they threw at it. I've also been asked about phones under $200 because cost was the most important factor in that purchasing decision, and that user was on a fixed income. The Pixel 4a fits nicely somewhere between those two sets of needs, as it will handle just about anything you can throw at it, but you are gonna pay $350. Even at that price point though, in some cases, you're still saving more than $1,000 when compared to some flagships. And let's not even talk about foldable flagships. Let's take a look at what you get for your money. The front of the phone sports a 5.8-inch Full HD Plus OLED display that, to my eye, gets as bright as the Note 20 Ultra, and it supports HDR. Video looks beautiful on the OLED panel, which has a pixel density of 443 pixels per inch. You've seen my videos before. Looking at our planet coastal seas, the underwater world comes to life in full immersive color on this display. My pal, the turtle here, looks magnificent, and the clownfish and other underwater flora and fauna are as vivid as you'd want them to be. The Witcher brings us to another aspect of panels, how they handle content which has been artistically colored. As you saw with Coastal Seas, everything was bright and vibrant, but what happens when a director colors much of the content dark and moody? On some displays, you'll lose detail. At worst, on displays which are a bit dark, those darker, moody movies become unwatchable. But at $350, you're getting a display which, for this specific use case, rivals much pricier displays for image brightness and quality. While I prefer larger displays, you don't lose much beyond size with the Pixel 4a. The phone does have some bezel to speak of, but it isn't much and nothing I'd make a major issue over in 2020. There are phones in this price range like the iPhone SE, which have much more bezel. Also on the front of the display, you'll get a hole punch camera in the left side, but we'll get into that a little more in a bit. Moving around the body of the phone, which is made from polycarbonate, which in English means plastic, albeit the durable type. On the right side of the phone, you'll get a volume rocker and the power button, the color contrasting power button. Bottom of the phone is where you'll find the USB-C port, one half of the stereo speakers and microphone. Left side of the phone is where you'll find the SIM tray. In this case, it's a single SIM affair with no expandable storage. That's right, you can get the Pixel 4a in any color you want as long as it's black, and any storage capacity you want as long as it's 128 gigabytes with no expandable storage. This is actually important to note because once you consider the space the operating system takes up, then have all of your apps loaded up, well, in my case, I was up to around 25 gigabytes. And once you start taking photos and video, that space can go quite fast. One feature I'll recommend turning on if you're already using this phone or thinking about picking one up is Smart Storage. Turning it on will remove photos which have already been backed up to Google Photos, which are over 60 days old. That's something you'll have to set up at some point, ideally when you first set up the phone. From the Photos app, you should have clicked on your thumbnail image in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, choose the Backup and Sync option, turn it on, and choose the upload size. It will back up all of your photos for free if you choose to back them up in a size smaller than the original size, or you can pay for more storage and back up the original quality photos. I use the latter of the two since I also use it for review purposes. Top of the phone is where you'll find another speaker and a 3.5mm port for audio out, which is an important feature in budget-friendly phones as you don't have to have a pricier Bluetooth earpiece for phone calls. Though you can find some really inexpensive options on Amazon, but I digress. Back of the phone, you'll get some stealth Google branding, a fingerprint scanner that works flawlessly, and single 12 megapixel camera with a large 1.4 micron pixel size, optical image stabilization, and 1.7 aperture. The camera on this phone is sort of a big deal. No, really. In multiple reviews, almost everywhere, the Pixel's cameras are always touted as being among the best, especially when it comes to computational photography and night mode. So let's take a look at both. Because this phone's camera is often compared against flagship phones, I took and compared pictures from this phone, the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra, and the iPhone 11 Pro Max. In this first set of images, I took a pic of the outdoor, socially distanced patio my wife and I had breakfast on one morning. The thing to notice is the restaurant next door, Tshaka. The iPhone took the most true-to-life image of Tshaka, which had the sun beating directly on the front of the wall. The iPhone gave the most realistic reproduction of the sunlight washing out the front of the building, while the Pixel 4a and Note 20 Ultra gave a warmer, toned-down reproduction. All three photos look wonderful, and it really is a matter of preference. I prefer seeing the sign more and the phone compensating for the overexposure. Next up, those pesky reds. Here's a beautiful red flower that the Pixel 4a captured quite well. Between the three cameras, the iPhone and Pixel 4a captured an image with the most contrast and detail in the petals, while all three did a fine job with the stamen and other details of the flower. While all three images are pleasing, I'd rate the captures from the Pixel 4a and iPhone to be the better of the three. One item we often forget about with these phones is their shutter speed and ability to capture moving objects. So I took these snaps of my dog rolling around on the ground in our little complex's dog park. She was definitely in motion, and as you can see here, the phone captured several images of her in motion and no blur. Impressive. But what about that much ballyhooed night mode? I went to my nighttime Metro stop location. All three photos look great, all three. The big telling camera quality with my Metro stop is the sharpness of the image, especially in the palm fronds, those palm tree leaves. With lesser cameras, they become a muddled mess. But as you can see with the Pixel 4a, those fronds have a significant amount of detail and contrast and look every bit as good as the detail and contrast on the much more expensive Note 20 Ultra and 11 Pro Max. In my extreme grandpa statue test, I pitted the three phones against each other once again. In this case, the Note 20 Ultra had the best capture for its ability to focus on the statue, capture its details, contrast, and overall image quality, but the Pixel 4a was a very, very close second. And that's $1,000 difference in phone. The iPhone had an issue focusing on the statue and instead kept capturing the background in sharp detail, leaving the statue soft focused. Just as a reminder, if you haven't seen my previous reviews using this test method, this room and statue are in complete darkness except for ambient light coming through the vertical blinds from the outside. The single camera computational photography in the Pixel 4a competes with and stands up to much more expensive cameras, and that is indeed impressive and indicative of something we're seeing in other markets. You really shouldn't have to spend a week or more worth of pay to get a flagship phone. Now, reference designs and bleeding edge devices like Samsung's Fold or Microsoft's Surface Duo are altogether a different beast whose cost can be argued, but for your standard flagship and below, phones like the Pixel 4a make a compelling argument for cost versus feature set. And let's round out this review with that feature set. Something I don't think is talked about often enough is accessibility. I mean, this phone is fast, and that should be acknowledged. The interface is fast and smooth. It will get updates for at least 3 years from when the device first became available on the Google Store in the US. It supports Google Pay, and all of that is important. It really has most of what you need, and then there's live caption.
Hello, I'm testing out the call captioning functionality.
I've tried this feature on other phones, but when you do, those phones' overlays or custom operating system enhancements often break Google's full functionality. With live caption, one of the features I haven't been able to get to work on other phones is real-time transcription of phone calls. Not the case on the Pixel 4a.
I'm showing you on screen right now how this works because I called myself from a different phone. And I'm talking to myself on the other phone. This is live caption inception.
This is a pure Google phone, so pure Google features just work. And quite well, I might add. This feature is amazing for taking calls in a loud area, or if you are one of the approximately 37.5 million American adults aged 18 and over who report some trouble hearing, according to the National Institutes of Health.
Las ropas está sucio. Ya do de moi.
Along with Live Translate, you really do get a device which meets the demands of 21st century living. And that's why, if you're looking for an entry-level device which punches well above its weight, I'll have to give the new Pixel 4a my top recommendation. Of every phone I've reviewed this year in this price point, overall, this is my top pick. There are phones which get louder. I didn't find the front-firing speakers to be especially loud, but this phone actually has front-firing speakers as opposed to just one speaker at the bottom, like some phones which cost a lot more. And the sound quality is quite good. It's immersive, again, if not as loud as I'd like. And there are phones which have larger batteries, but they may not have rapid or 18-watt charging with the 18-watt charger in the box, like the Pixel 4a does, and it still got me 7.5 hours screen time with 3 hours of runtime left after some 20-odd hours of light use. Now that's with a benchmarking test, and I'm still working through some real-world results, but the phone still looks to have pretty decent battery life, even though its battery is a tiny 3140 milliamp hours. So, if you're in the market for a relatively inexpensive 4G phone and a massive screen isn't a necessity for you, pick this one up. I don't think you'll regret it. Hey, we don't take it lightly that you've taken the time to watch with us. If you have any questions or comments that I didn't answer in the review, please leave them in the comments below. I'll get to them. As always, this is reviews.org. If you have any questions about rate plans or where you can pick this phone up, you can check that out on the website right there. You see it in the corner, and we have plenty of information and research for you there. I'm Tshaka Armstrong. We'll see you on the next video.